sports fans. I'm your host, Quinn Lowe, and here's your other host,
Antoine Jackson.
And we're from Between the Classes magazine. It's been a great week of college football. I mean, unfortunately, we're at the end of it. But this was a great ride, great bowl games, some major changes in some positions, some new coaches and some new head men. Actually, where we got to start off the show today, close to home, USF has some new coaches that they're about to be bringing in a minute.
Much needed.
Willie Taggart missed to get on the bus, and the USF staff have replaced offensive coordinator Walt Wells as well as their quarterback coach Nick Sheridan, and they're currently looking for some replacements. I mean, we were at a couple of games this year. We saw the offense, we saw the sputtering, we saw the lack of cohesion. What is your thoughts about the firing?
Well, I think it's a good move. I mean, unfortunately for the quarterbacks coaching the offensive coordinator, unfortunate for them. However, Willie Taggart coming into USF, wanting to build a program, following Jim Leavitt's footsteps, a fan base hungry to get back to winning ways. Willie won't have as much time as maybe some other coaches. I don't know, but he doesn't have much time to keep losing, because when you lose, things start getting pretty bad. So.
And I don't even think it's a matter of him losing. It's how they're losing. Even in the two victories that they did have, they didn't score offensive touchdown. They were 121st out of 123 teams in total offense, only averaging 256.4 yards a game.
And how many teams are in the college?
123.
And it's 123.
And they were 121. That's pretty bad.
So y'all do the math.
Yeah, and they only had, for the season, 11 total touchdowns offensively. That's not acceptable. We're going to be talking about some guys that played in some of these BCS games that had 11 touchdowns themselves, let alone an offense. So Willie Taggart has to realize, he's realized already, even in his first season, that there's some changes that have to be made, and they have to be made quick. Because, like you said, there's not that much time, and it's interesting that they gave Skip Holtz a kind of a long leash, but I guarantee they're not looking to give him a long leash.
No, Willie's leash, because Skip, he didn't win either. So people are just tired of losing. And
right.
In the microwave society where everybody wants it quick, fast, and great, you don't really have as much time to build. Now, USF's defense was pretty solid. They had some nice games. Oh, yeah. Ryan Giddens, the Lynch, he came on late.
Yeah.
So they had
Didi
some nice
Lattimore.
Didi had a great season.
Truthfully, Didi is my defensive player of the year on that squad. He was the heart and soul, and too often that's where everything began and ended with them on the defensive side. Now, offensively, I think what hurt them a lot was the fact that Marcus Shaw, who will be graduating this year,
bad. Great, congratulations to him, but bad for the team.
Right. He went down with that injury against Cincinnati in the victory, and he never really kind of recovered. So that was the one thing, with no consistent running game, the inconsistencies at quarterback stepped up even more. So they have to get better. They have to do something. So it's just going to be interesting to see what they can do. And they do have some guys on the roster at running back, and Willie Davis, who's a junior, and Darius Tice, who was a true freshman, that had some experience. So hopefully they can use this losing season as an opportunity to get better and get prepared for that next level. I know we were talking about it before we got on air about what they could do at quarterback position. What do you really want them to do at that position?
I think they may need to incorporate maybe more of a spread offense, get some, because a lot of people are going to the spread, different packages.
Yeah.
You need to have points. The points bring the fans, defense win championships. And as we've seen with not many points, the fan base was kind of scattery this year.
Right.
So, but Marcus Shaw, he had a nice season. He surprised me from Arcadia, Florida. He surprised me with his elusiveness, his work ethic. He tried to come back because I think he knew it was his last year, so he tried to give it a go, showing some guts for the team. But definitely, Willie's definitely looking to get a nice offense. He's out of that Harbaugh circle, John Harbaugh. So he's out of that circle. So I'm quite sure he's been in contact with them. They don't want to see their good friend Willie losing like that. And at the same time, Willie doesn't want to lose either. He's a competitor.
Oh, definitely.
So with them.
And that's one thing I've always noticed of him. Anytime we've been in his press conferences, and he's always had that desire. You can see it. He wants to win. He wants to get everything going. It's just he realizes, I don't have the pieces. Yeah. I don't have the pieces here, and I don't have. I have out of 22 of those starters, he might have 3 or 4, and that's not enough. No. And even in the American Athletic Conference, where you are losing to Louisville to the ACC. You don't have the same Cincinnati program, and they could easily, depending on what UCF does now that Blake Bortles it has declared for the draft, this is an opportunity for those two teams, if they do the right thing, to run this conference.
And
so
Tommy Tuberville's still in Cincinnati. He's probably not going anywhere anytime soon.
I doubt it.
With him,
Yeah.
so he knows how to win. So and he went down. Munchie went down early in the season.
yeah,
so
with a
Munchie
gruesome knee. Yeah,
he should be back. You think he'll be back? Maybe.
yeah, he should be back, and I think that they had set themselves up where their offense was kind of geared towards him, and when he went down with that bad leg injury, that kind of sent their season onto a tailspin.
Yeah, Munchie was a tough
But
character.
it's almost time for that next break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes to talk about the BCS bowl games, the more important bowl games, the better bowl games, because it looked like this year was truly that year where all the underdogs decided we're not going to be punked this year, except for one game. But we all know what that was, the national championship game. But every other game, the underdog came up and punched the big dog on campus.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. So we'll be right back at you, people. Once again, this is Antoine Jackson. I'm here with my host,
Quinn Lowe.
And we're here about to talk about have a bowl game recap, which is sponsored by C-Vibe. Now, Mr. Quinn, how do you feel about, we're going to start with your section first. How do you feel about the Rose Bowl with Michigan State and Stanford? How do you feel about that?
That game was actually surprisingly one of the better games of the bowl season. Everybody expected the tough defenses from Michigan State and Stanford to step up, but surprisingly, Michigan State offense showed out.
Especially late in the game.
Oh yeah, Connor Cook had actually his best game of his career, going 22 of 36 for 332 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Jeremy Langford has going into this. I think his career at Michigan State, he started off as a defensive back. They made him the switch over to running back, and he's shown why that was a great move. 23 carries, 84 yards on this game, and I think he had over 1,500 yards for the season. So he's that hard runner. He's not Le'Veon Bell type hard runner, but he got the job done, and I think he really stepped in for a position that a lot of people going into this season really weren't sure was going to make who was going to step up.
Well, it looked like it was a smart move because that Michigan State defense was the #1 defense in the country.
Yeah.
And so with him moving from defense to offense, and they had like Thorpe Award winner at cornerback and a couple of guys.
Darquez Denard was a Thorpe Award winner. He's a lot of people have already kind of put him in that position to be a top 10 pick. Some people have him actually going to the local team, Detroit Lions. Still not sure about that because if I had it my way, that guy out of Clemson, #2, Sammy Watkins, will be wearing Honolulu blue. But we'll talk about that in another whole episode.
So you're thinking about having Sammy and Calvin Johnson?
Dude, Megatron and Starscream. I already called his nickname, so if anybody else calls him that, I want my money.
Definitely.
But going back to the Stanford Michigan State game, Kevin Hogan was the consummate game manager. And yes, I hate using that term, but I have to use it with this one. He was flustered by the Michigan State defense, who did step up, even though they didn't have their lead linebacker Max Bullock, who was suspended for the game, held Kevin Hogan only 143 yards, and it seemed like Davis Shaw got outcoached.
Possibly with Michigan State, what I noticed with them this year, it was kind of hard for me to watch them a lot because it's Big Ten. But one thing I noticed with Michigan State, that defense hits every game.
Yeah.
Hard.
And that's
the plan you want to, they're going to knock you out.
They're disciplined, they're aggressive, and this is coming from a Michigan fan. I real recognize real. I give them credit, and what Coach D'Antonio has kind of established up there in East Lansing is that defense where a lot of these guys were not as heralded. They didn't have the Under Armour All Americans. None of these guys. I think the only person that they had on the roster this year from the Under Armour game was their punter. So, and we saw at the game how much use the punters got. So it's not really, that's not a position that really gets recognized much. So D'Antonio, the defensive coordinator, Pat Narduzzi, who because of his great season is starting to get some rumblings about possibly being a head coach somewhere. So they've set that standard for being that hard-nosed, tough-nosed, oh, you didn't recognize me in high school as a recruit. I'm going to show you why you missed out on me.
Yeah, Michigan State is becoming a special place to play at. Looking at the defense, like I said, I was just really impressed. Like every time they played somebody, they were just physical, punishing, disruptive, just Hurricane-esque type of defense.
Oh, yeah.
You know, definitely.
And the key is everybody every year thinks, okay, this person graduated. They're going to lose some people. Shalik Calhoun on the defensive line is graduating. Max Bullock is graduating. Denard is graduating. Isaiah Lewis is graduating. So those are people at each point of the defense. But just like Alabama, just like some of these big programs, they have some guys hungry and ready to go next in line.
So where's the recruiting class right now this year? Is it top 10 or no?
Nah, that's not even Michigan State's MO. That's the thing about it. He finds these guys that really are the maybe they get a couple 4 stars. They every so often they may get a 5-star here, but they make their hay with that 3-star recruit that fits that mold, that tough defense, that tough minded, even with the quarterback position. Connor Cook wasn't highly regarded as far as the national spectrum, but he got his job. He got the job done. The surprise position that they do have the high regarded players is that wide receiver, and they're not stepping up. They had DeAnthony Arnett, that was a 4-star, 5-star from Saginaw, Michigan.
Is he number 3?
No, he wasn't. He's not even in the depth chart. And he started off at Tennessee with Lane Kiffin, transferred home, and he can't get any run. Aaron Berberich was another one of the top receivers coming out of the state of Michigan. Got recruited by some of everybody in the nation. Hasn't been able to kind of make some hay on that depth chart. And the guys that are stepping up, Tony Lippett, case in point, in the bowl game, 5 catches, 94 yards. McGarrett Kings from Georgia, one of the Georgia boys I told you about before.
Pipeline.
He had a good game, and he's showing that speed, the SEC speed in the North. So he might have been a mid-level 3-star. That's why Georgia didn't look at him. That's why Alabama didn't look at him. But I guarantee right now, he's relishing in the fact that he's up north and he's getting that attention. Because everybody in Big Ten country, next year going into the season, I think he'll be a junior, will know who McGarrett Kings is.
Michigan State was very tough. I like what the coaches built at that program. They're a team that you can pretty much watch a little bit more consistently.
Oh, yeah.
Being a household name. You come in there half-stepping, you will get punished. And also with these recruits, they have to keep in mind, whatever it took for you to get to that next level in college, that's what you're gonna have to work like that to keep your job in college.
Right.
Because there's a 2-star and a 3-star with a chip on their shoulder who wants your position. And if you're not mentally stable, if you're cracking under pressure, if you're not focused, those things are gonna show. And like you said, the guy transferred from Tennessee, went home. Now he can't even crack the depth chart. He's All-American coming out of high school, ESPN. So, you just got to get focused mentally. Mentally, first things first, guys. First.
Up next, we got the Fiesta Bowl. Last show, we talked about it, and honestly, I'm going to be real. I did not think they stood much of a chance. UCF against Baylor. The Knights had a great night. 52-42, and truthfully, outside of a couple scare moments, it wasn't even that close.
No.
Blake Bortles, the Mr. Johnny on the spot, everybody wants to recognize me now, but he's been doing this all year, was 20 of 31, 301 yards passing, had a career best 93 yards rushing that kind of helped set the tone. They got a great production from, and I know you're going to hate having to hear from this, Storm Johnson, the former Miami player, 20 carries, 124 yards. Now, even with UCF's offense getting off, Baylor hung in there. They just couldn't stop anybody.
Couldn't stop. And which was a key to years all year. When they played certain teams that had some offense, they would get
no
caught in the
defense.
shootout. They didn't have any defense. And at one point, Baylor was supposed to have a top-notch defense, allegedly.
Right. And I'm glad you used that word, allegedly, because you don't realize how things are until you get punched in the face. And really Bryce Petty had a good game. He was 30 of 47, 356. So I think actually Baylor outgained UCF in the game. They just, in addition to UCF had 3 turnovers. So when you look at the stats, if I didn't watch this game and just looked at the stats, I would have guessed, okay, how much did Baylor beat UCF by?
Oh, of course. Definitely. I mean, Baylor was putting up 70, 60, 70
right.
points. I mean, 42 points is not bad.
Right. That should be
more than
most teams. You should be able to win against most teams. That's a winnable score. But I think the number that stands out is 17 penalties for 135 yards. Undisciplined.
That's
and
the
I
whole
guarantee,
football field.
And I guarantee a lot of those penalties came at critical moments that either ended drives for them offensively or kept drives alive for the UCF offense.
I think it was a sign of frustration because I think Baylor probably thought UCF was just going to roll over, and UCF came with that first quarter when those defensive linemen
came out flying. The first 14 points.
flying off the ball, slapping the offensive line in the face. They just getting off the ball like, oh yeah, we here today.
Oh yeah, and that's the one thing I think that kind of that speaks the same for all of these underdog games is they proved they weren't intimidated
At all.
Just because Vegas gave you the advantage on the books does not mean you got the advantage or you could just sleepwalk through this game. And another person that did have a good game for Baylor is Lake Seastrunk. 17 carries, 117 yards, and what we come to find out now is his last game as a Baylor Bear. He did declare for the NFL draft. I think one of the draft neeks, either some of the guys, they had him ranked as one of the top 5 running backs. So it depends on how you run some 40 time, because we all know that 40 time will make or break you.
So
even though it is irrelevant, because I guarantee your football speed and your tank top and short speeds are 2 different things. We've seen guys run a blistering 40 time, don't do nothing on the road.
Put the pads on them, they running in cement.
Right.
We seen some guys running 4.7, 4.6, 4.5 40, put them in pads. He's running faster than everybody in the stadium.
It's a difference in Mel Kiper, and Mel Kiper is the king of that height. And I think that's the thing. A lot of people have taken his word as golden, even though it's not always like that.
I kind of like Todd McShay a little bit.
Yeah, and that's who actually had him ranked so high. McShay, I couldn't think of his name.
Gotta listen to Todd a little bit. Todd knows his stuff now.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's just one of those things. If these guys look at the film, I give them more credit, and I think McShay does it a lot better than Kiper, because Kiper is kind of now living off the hype.
Yeah,
because he's been there for a while.
He's been there for a long time.
I mean, his hair is more famous than some people, so that's the thing you kind of have to deal with.
Todd's a little hungrier. So very hungry. So he's trying to get that. The change in the guard a little bit. Mel, he's not. He's not upset or nothing like that. He's made his money. He's relaxing. He's living good. Todd, you want to take over, go ahead. But Todd is definitely stepping into that role very precisely. So it's an interesting thing. So definitely.
But next up, I think this has to be the most surprising, not because of it being an upset, but the fact that they came out so lethargic against them. Alabama against Oklahoma, 45-31. SEC power, and people gonna hate me for saying this. Tide road.
Put them in protective.
Tide road. I mean this, and yes, you could pull that. Alabama was disappointed because they lost the SEC. No. If that's the case, don't get on the bus.
Don't even come in here.
Don't go to New Orleans.
Do not come.
Tell your fans to stay at home with the hats.
Come. Please.
Don't embarrass Bear Bryant.
No.
And definitely tell A.J. McCarron's mama to stay off the internet.
Yeah.
For those who don't know about that, we get to that when we get to Jameis Winston. But 5 turnovers by Alabama. It wasn't. This has been the MO. If you find a way, offensively and defensively, to punch and stick with that team, they didn't have the same dominant defense that they've used to have. They've normally used to having, and it showed this game.
Everybody's a bully until you meet another bully.
Oh yeah,
and Boomer Sooner is a bully.
And I think because Oklahoma has had kind of developed that reputation of, can Bob Stoops win a big game, they forgot about him. And to quote one of the greatest boxers in the industry, Roy Jones, y'all must have forgot.
They must have forgot.
Because you have to realize how often this program has been the national title games, and they have that notoriety, and they have that history, and they're a prideful program. They have a prideful fan base, and they realize, because even Stoops at the beginning of the season came in taking jabs at the SEC, and who would have thought that they would be playing an SEC school in the BCS bowl game? So I guarantee, while most fans and most casual observers saw that Alabama versus Oklahoma and looked, Alabama's going to roll, he saw that, this is our chance. This is our chance to back up everything I've been saying, and they did it.
And what was kind of interesting with Bob Stoops was with Florida with the SEC.
Right.
So then he goes, he throws his shots at the SEC a few years. He always had something smart to say. But then when he found out they had to play Alabama, he's like, Alabama's still the best team in the country. He buttered them up real good.
Alabama, you play it off.
Alabama, we just know you're the best. You just had a tough loss. But, as soon as that game started that night, Oklahoma came out here like, hey, I've been looking for you. Let's go.
They took the fight.
Let's go.
Like you said, the best way to beat a bully
I'm a bully too. It's 2 bullies in the room now. What you gonna do when it's 2 bullies? Nobody's scared. When you're not scared,
no intimidation.
Everything changes.
And Trevor Knight, the alternative quarterback option, because a lot of people going into the season really weren't looking for Trevor Knight. They were the Belldozer, Blake Bell.
Yeah.
That was the answer. Is he going to be able to step up? Trevor Knight came into the game, 32 of 44, 348 yards. I mean, truthfully, outside of Johnny Manziel, I have not seen a quarterback put up numbers like this against Alabama in a while.
Well, he shredded him.
Shredded
him. And he was a freshman also, right?
Yeah.
He shredded him. And the thing what I noticed with the effect of having a prominent program, Oklahoma had a lot of playmakers out there making plays. The receivers, the running back, they were like slender guys making moves.
Jalen Saunders, Lacote
moves out there. You know, Kenny Stills just came from the not so long ago.
Oh, yeah.
And what's the one guy that broke his leg with the Rams?
Ryan Broyles. He with the Lions.
Yeah, that's what I meant. So they've had some electric players come through, and I think Alabama may have disrespected them or underestimated, but you don't underestimate a team like Oklahoma because they were playmakers. They playmakers matched up very well with them.
And not to take anything away from Alabama, because they still had some Alabama moments. And for those who did not see the game,
yes, they did.
You missed the introduction, the national introduction of the young Derrick Henry. 8 carries, 100 yards. For those who follow recruiting, we've known about this guy a couple years. One of the top running backs, and actually Alabama was trying to get him to change positions. I guarantee now they're glad that he didn't move. And what's scary about that program is T.J. Yeldon, 72 yards that night. Derek Harvey, 100 yards. You still have 2 or 3 other backs in Derek Henry's class that haven't been able to get going.
Somebody may have to transfer. I'm sorry. Because Drake, I like Drake personally.
Drake, yeah, I forgot about Kenyon Drake.
Yeah, exactly. That's what
L.T. Tenpenny was in this class. It's another running back that switched late to them from Georgia. So they have some backs, and that's the one thing that they churned them out. And this is scary because Amari Cooper got off. Your Miami boys.
He got off.
9 catches, 121 yards. DeAndrew White, 3 catches. 3 catches for 139 yards. So those turnovers.
Turnovers hurt him. Yulee, the guy Derrick Henry, he's from Yulee, Florida. They call him the Yulee Bull. He had 1 catch for 61 yards. Now the problem is Alabama, when they go back and get ready for off-season conditioning, the people in Alabama want to see Derrick Henry.
Right.
And they love Yeldon and they love Drake. So now you're looking at the situation where in Alabama, you know that Alabama's known for playing who's the best player. And right now it's kind of hard for me to say which running back is better than Derrick Henry. Because Oklahoma, he only had 8 carries. But I noticed Oklahoma's body language. When Derrick Henry was getting that ball, they were looking like they had seen a ghost.
Right.
He had
they
1
did not
catch
want
for
to tackle
60. They did not want any of that. I'm telling you. They didn't want
that's
that
the type of running back that gets things done in the SEC.
He can block too for you too. You can block. He's a dude like 6'3", 240 or something like that.
Yeah, he's pushing. He's pushing over 6 foot and definitely that 240 range and runs
easily
and has no problem.
Did you see him pull away from the DB on the angle?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And that's scary. That's not
that's
fair.
That's scary. Yeah, that's scary. He was running. He was pulling away. So I mean, great. Hats off to Alabama. You had a nice season. I know you guys were going for like college football supremacy, things to that nature. But hey, college football. Anything goes.
And that's the sad thing. You have some Alabama fans looking at 10-2 as a terrible season.
You got some fan bases dying for
right. Can I get a 2-loss season?
And the BCS loss.
Right.
That's okay with us. We can say we did that. But
and interesting, both our programs right now would trade places with them in a heartbeat.
Struggling.com right now.
And Alabama's looking at a 2-loss season like, okay,
we discussed.
Maybe we should have got rid of Saban. And which is
they would take
it's unbelievable, but this is when you create that culture of winning.
Spoiled brats.
Nothing else matters.
Spoiled.
If you don't, it's to quote another great, Ricky Bobby. If you're not first, you're last. And truthfully, that's what's been developed in the state of Alabama. Mm-hmm. And I don't blame them. You won 3 of the last 4 national championships. I wouldn't expect anything else, especially when you had the quarterback that won 3, that was on the team for 3.
Yeah.
This should have been 4. This, even with the suspect defense, this should have been number 4. But that's why we play the games on the field, not in the paper.
Well, the thing is, when you get loaded up on talent like that, after a while, you know, some of the talent starts going everywhere else because not everybody wants to sit down and wait 3 or 4 years. And then if you go to Alabama, you mess around and a freshman comes in with Yeldon and Henry. Next thing you know, we got a controversy. Yeldon's going to his junior season.
Yeah, Jill. Yep.
He was supposed to be top notch, where everybody was in love with Yeldon. Well, Yeldon's great. Then Drake came. Everybody, well, who's Drake? Now Henry's coming. Everybody like, you know what? Don't even worry about Drake. Don't even worry about Yeldon. Give me Henry. So college football, you got to be careful.
It's gonna be interesting to see how that thing goes.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is another game that was I watched intently because it involved the Big Ten school, Clemson versus Ohio State. Now, some people, when it comes to the bowl season, I'm going to root for my conference. I got to stand up for my conference. Yeah. I'm going to carry the banner for the Big Ten. I'm going to carry the banner for the SEC.
That's because
me.
That's because their team had a bad season.
Not me. When I watched this game, I was going for Clemson the whole way. I wanted to see Clemson roll over them boys. This is just the Michigan fan in me. I couldn't see Ohio State and it's not the program, it's the fans. Yeah, it's the fans because they don't shut up. I know enough Ohio State fans to have it where, we're the best team, this. If we wouldn't have lost to Michigan State, we could have been playing, we should still be No. You got embarrassed.
No.
And truthfully, it could have been worse because Taj Boyd got a little video gameish with that flip pass that got intercepted by the young freshman Von Bell. So it still could have been a lot easier. And one thing I did notice about Clemson's defense, they hit Braxton Miller.
Did they?
They hit him and they hit him and they hit him.
I almost called the hotline for child abuse. They would hit him a lot.
And even one of the plays that got called for unnecessary roughness, it was a suspect call. It looked like a clean hit. They called him because he drove the quarterback into the turf. But that's what tackling is.
That's what you're supposed to do.
So
what are you talking about?
But Boyd closed out his Clemson career going 30 or 41 for 378, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And it could have been 6 touchdowns, 1 interception if he wouldn't have got greedy.
And Sammy Watkins had 227 yards receiving in his last debut. He has to go to the NFL. That's who,
I already called the star screen.
He's the star screen, but Sammy's been a monster since his freshman year. He made life a whole lot easier for Taj Boyd.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Definitely. So they're gonna be okay. They're living the dream. They didn't win as much as they wanted to, but they got an Orange Bowl win.
I think they both can go off this season with that victory because, and this is one thing that Boyd said and a couple of guys, even Watkins, coming off that last Orange Bowl debacle against West Virginia where they lost 70-33. They had something to prove. Definitely. While it was different, it was a different opponent. They realized we cannot lay another egg in this building. Back to the scene of
the crown. You go to a situation where you got punished the time before, you got a chance to get some type of redemption, clean your face up a little bit. You got to go at that situation like full speed ahead, basically. So I like what Clemson was doing. Clemson has always had a nice defensive line. They can never really get over the hump. I'm going to be interested to see who drafts Taj Boyd. I think he's a great quarterback, actually. I think he's pretty good.
And I think it's going to be one of those situations where he may not go in the round he should, but his what he turns out to be as a pro is going to be a lot more surprising than people expect.
I think maybe the Cowboys should get him as a backup just to see what happens, because they could use one. Maybe.
Most definitely. And speaking of quarterbacks on the next level, Braxton Miller, there was some conversation about him possibly turning pro after this year. No. I respect his game as a scrambler, but as a passing quarterback, he has a lot more work to do. And even then, I still don't see him having the skill set and the necessary foundation because he struggled in the Michigan game as far as completion percentage. He made the plays, but he didn't make enough of the plays.
He wasn't even the best passer on the team, personally.
Right, Kenny Guyton.
He was the best passer, which for Kenny Guyton, he's a senior, so he has to go this year. Hopefully, the teams will give him a look, in the NFL and things of that nature. Braxton Miller said he's coming back, which is understandable. He took a lot of hits in that game. He probably thought he maybe want to come back in the season on a higher note.
Oh, definitely.
Work on refining his skills, and throwing the ball. Troy Smith. Where's Troy Smith at right now?
I think he may be out of either he's a third string quarterback or he may be out of the league. I caught a wind of him in that Heisman commercial. A lot of people didn't even recognize him in the commercial, but
what was he?
But the one player that they are gonna miss on that Ohio State team is Carlos Hyde, another Florida boy.
Carlos out of Naples, Florida, monster.
25 carries, 113 yards, and the one thing that a lot of people had always been talking about with Urban Meyer, he had never had a 1,000-yard running back, and Hyde proved this point where if I have the type of back I can trust consistently the feed, they will get it done. And
Arms is a bad boy.
oh yeah, and that's the one thing I think that Ohio State is going to miss unless they found. I think they have somebody on the roster, Briante Dunn. I think Rod Smith may be coming back, but they don't. They're going to need that back that can get that tough yard.
I don't think it's going to be hard for Ohio State to get running backs. They've always had good running backs.
Oh yeah, I think they have the speed back. But I think that back if I need you to get 1 yard, you can get that 1 yard for me.
To fit their identity, I can see where you're coming from with that because Ohio State they like to pound, they like to try to be the bullies, like to be the bullies. So when they're not being a bully, they're getting bullied, and they don't like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what running back they bring into the system this year. It's going to be interesting to see what they had like 8 commits for the Army game.
Yeah. Oh, they set it up.
Mostly defense too, right?
Right.
Yeah. So Urban Meyer, he's loading up. He doesn't like losing, so he's getting everything situated. So we're gonna see what Ohio State does and see how they adjust the things to that nature.
Now, the game that everybody stayed up late for, was anticipating, ready to see, ready to hear about, famous Jameis Winston against the Miracle Tigers. Jameis came out on top, 34-31, but I guarantee for 3.5 quarters, Florida State fans had their hands had this look the whole time.
Florida State fans had to cross the Bible and the Holy Water out in front of the TV. They cannot tell me anything different either.
Right, and because when your team gets down 21-3 in the first half, it's hard not to have that sinking feeling. Maybe this might not be our year.
And it was an SEC school. Usually when an SEC school gets on top of you 21-3, you can close
Lights out. Lights out.
Oh, you can cancel Christmas. But, a lot of people went to bed early. Even after Florida State scored and made it 21-10, the critical point in my eyes was that first half when they were in that fake punt.
Yep.
In order to keep that drive alive, because Jimbo knew he could not afford to punt at that particular time to Auburn and give up a scoring opportunity.
And what made it even more of a risk, that high risk, high reward, just imagine if he wouldn't have converted it.
Oh, my gosh.
They are deep on that side of the field.
Jimbo, what are you doing?
They hadn't stopped Nick Marshall. They didn't stop Trey Mason all night. So this was a situation where if they go in, and even if they settle for a field goal, make it 24-3, that's 3 touchdowns.
Ooh.
Momentum is killed. Jameis Winston's confidence was shook already because in that first half, he got hit more in that first half than I think he got hit all season.
Probably combined.
Yeah.
He took all the hits in the first half. And Auburn was hitting him. And, Auburn, they get nasty.
Oh, yeah.
They get nasty.
And I think it was more so because of the fact that Jimbo got too cute. He was trying to – you have Devontae Freeman, James Wilder, all these running backs at Florida State. And you're coming out first down, second down, passing the ball.
Yeah. I
understand that you want to mix it up, keep the offense off balance. But when you have Jameis, this wasn't Jameis. That's not how Jameis played. He played with a balanced offense. You ran the ball to set up that play action pass and get these deep passes to Kelvin Benjamin, Rashad Green, some of these Kenny Shaw, all these other top-notch wide receivers, and it wasn't happening. So when you second down, incomplete pass, you're in second and long, third and long, it was easy for Auburn to open up, just pin back their ears and come after them, and that's what they were doing.
I mean, August, it was a great game. I mean, Auburn definitely got respect. I always had respect for Auburn. I think they got the nationwide respect. Florida State, I think they were kind of very cocky.
Oh, yeah.
Thought that it wasn't even going to be close. So we're going to blow them out. They were down 21-3. Everything changed. People got concerned. Everybody had to get situated.
And that's the thing. Like I said earlier, that's why you can't listen to the bookies. You can't listen to Vegas. You can't pay attention to that. Because being the 12-point favorite means nothing when they put on they strap that chin strap the same way you do.
Nick Marshall is faster than what I thought he was.
Yeah,
too. He's very fast.
Because when he hit that corner for one of those touchdowns, he outran the Florida State linebackers, and the Florida State linebackers have some speed.
Yeah, they're hybrid linebackers.
Right. Most of them are generally they came into Florida State being safeties, bulked up and played linebackers. So it was one of those things where, like you said, when they got the fake punt, went to the half, 21-10, and even coming out, didn't score on their first drive, but the defense set the tone and held them. That they started, okay, now we know what we have to do.
Do you think Auburn took the foot off the gas, or you think they got tired? Or it's a combination of both?
I don't even think they took. I don't think Gus Malzahn is that type of coach. I think this was the opportunity. If they could have blew those guys out,
They would have blown them
42-3, they would have, because that would have
trying to run
been
it up.
that would have been a system. That would have been a statement for not only for Auburn to say,
Don't even come here.
don't come with that. Then the SEC would have had that banner
Oh
for
my
another
God.
eight straight championships. I don't think this was a matter of him trying to pull off the gas. Florida State and Jimbo Fisher, the offensive coordinator, made some adjustments, and what they did, they put the wide receivers in bunch formation and made Auburn have to go into that zone, which kind of took that pressure off and gave the offensive line some opportunities. What kind of disappointed me was I paid attention to the center, Brian Stewart. He couldn't even recognize the read. So he was calling out the wrong reads, and he would he would snap the ball and his head was not up. So he couldn't tell where the blitz was coming from. And if your center is the brain of your offensive line.
So for Auburn, right?
No, for Florida State.
Okay.
So once I think in the second half, at halftime or something, they told him, you have to do this. So they adjusted it, and coming out in the second half, he didn't have that issue anymore. And that's what brought the offensive line more continuity, and that they gave Jameson more time to, in addition to shortening some of those routes and getting the running game. So I think Jimbo Fisher got too cute in the beginning, and then once, even Jameson said it, we got back to Florida football.
Yeah.
We got back to Florida State football. And once they did that interception, that key interception did it.
Jernigan. I like Tim Jernigan.
And people talked about Jernigan because they kept showing him on the sidelines out of the game, but the way Auburn's offense was set up, it was so fast paced. I guarantee most of them other players were shuffling in and out. You just didn't recognize it.
Right.
But the kickoff return and that interception changed the momentum, and then Jameis had his Heisman moment. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, has Jameis had his Heisman moment?" He had it after he won the game, after he won the award. That last drive.
Oh, that last drive was very monstrous. I mean, one for the ages. I mean, the strike that the play that stands out to me when that drive was the pass he made to Rashad Green.
Yep.
He put that ball so on the money. He threw it like Chief Osceola threw a spear.
Right.
I mean, it was right between the numbers. Rashad Green caught the pass and split two defenders.
Yeah.
Made them look like they were
invisible.
I mean, the move was, oh my gosh. And then he's running down the sideline, and the referees, they missed the horse collar, but they got it back with the pass interference.
They missed the horse collar. They missed the face mask. They missed a couple of penalties in that game.
I was a little concerned. How do you miss a horse collar when 50 million people see this man running down the sideline?
Right. That's the only thing that you have to look at.
Like, how does nobody pull it? But how do you not see that?
Right. But it didn't come back to haunt them, and they set it up. And I got to ask you this question: that Trey Mason 37-yard touchdown. If you are Auburn, if you're Gus Malzahn, do you tell him not to score?
We discussed that. It was funny you brought it up because we talked about that at work earlier. And when you're in the heat of the moment, you got to think he had to break a couple of tackles.
Mm-hmm.
He ran one of the kids over from Florida State, the freshman. He was a true freshman. So, and when he scored, now in the heat of the moment, you're thinking, I got to get in the end zone.
Right.
Your defense has been playing pretty stat all night.
Right.
They got a minute left. You've been holding them for the most part all night. You're thinking my defense can get that. Now, at the same time, Florida State offense have proven that time and time again they were very explosive. Mm-hmm. So maybe he gets down there and maybe he stops at the one. But it's kind of hard to think like that when you're in a situation. Maybe the Gus could have told him that beforehand.
Right, because that was the one thing I was thinking about when the score happened. I told my friend that's a Florida State alumni, this is the best thing that happened to Florida State. Yeah. Because if Auburn would have had to drive those 37 yards to get into the end zone, I guarantee they would only maybe had 30 or 40 seconds left on their clock, if that much. But when he ran the ball in, it gave them a minute and 19 seconds left, and that was all that they needed to kind of set themselves where they could still run Florida State's offense. Where I think 30 or 40 seconds, they would have had to go into extreme hurry up, which is outside of what Florida State normally does.
Well, Kermit Whitfield with that kickoff return was monstrous.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because like I said, Auburn came to play. They came to take something. But Kermit Whitfield, he's always been known as one of the fastest kids every time he's stepped on the field since Little League, high school. So and it didn't show it was not a difference also with that kickoff return.
Right.
He outran those guys like, don't you ever kick it to me in a situation like this.
And talk about the most inopportune time to get an injury.
Oh
the Auburn guy that pulls up lane with the hamstring right in the space that Whitfield ran right past. That's the time that you wish that somebody is behind you. And I asked my boy this question. if you are on Auburn side, because the run came down Auburn sidelines. If you on that sidelines, do you take the 15-yard penalty and trip them?
Yes. For the national championship, yes.
And
you call me what you want to after the game, but you won't call me a loser.
That's the hard thing that you have to consider. In that situation, they can't give them a touchdown. The only thing they can do is, at the point where I trip them, give them 15 extra yards, and that's it.
Really, you don't want to take that route.
I mean, it's bad sportsmanship.
It's terrible. It's terrible sport.
But in the heat of the game, this is the
national championship.
Mike Tomlin, oops, I'm on the field. I knew I saw myself on the field, but I realized I was on the field.
It's a lot of that. The Jason Kidd, oops, I spilled the ice on the court. There's a lot of these smart things going on with this social media going on. So I wouldn't be surprised if somebody try to pull it off if the marbles are like that. If the stakes are high like that.
It's unfortunate that we're both saying that, but like you said, for a national championship, and that was one of the plays that changed the whole, because Florida State really hadn't been moving the ball offensively like they could, so that woke up everyone.
If they would have took Kermit Whitfield on that, you put the Florida State sideline, probably would have rushed over there.
I think they had to stop the game because it would have been
bitch clearing brawl.
It would have been
fans and all.
Right, and
you done tripped him on this fourth quarter. He's about to score. And you trip him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And like I said, but what could the refs do?
Throw the flag. They might have to bring in a more extensive penalty.
I guess, is it a rule? And we have to find that out for the next show. Is there a rule that kind of extremely penalizes the team if they decide to do that? I mean, because obviously in the Baltimore game, the Baltimore-Pittsburgh game, it didn't happen. They just gave them a penalty. They gave them a penalty and they fined them. And that was the same thing. If Baltimore scores that touchdown against Pittsburgh, they may have won that game and they could have been in the playoffs. So a lot of fans don't want to look at it that way, but that one play, that one return stopped Baltimore from getting in the playoffs.
Oh, definitely. I mean, and believe it or not, it's a lot of money involved. There was 1 or 2 plays. That's a lot of money involved.
Right.
So
even though a lot of people that even if they rolled out with Auburn, 12-point underdogs, they made some hay. They covered their money.
You're better off if you were a type of gambling person, or whichever. I don't condone it, but if that's what you do, national championship games, it's kind of you might want to go man to man straight up. Taking the spread and the numbers, that's always dangerous. You just want to get out with a win.
Right.
When you play those type of games, you just want to win. I don't care if you win by 0.5. You just want to win the game.
True.
So it doesn't matter.
But
definitely,
we've been talking about the college boys. We got to get into the high school. The next guys are up. When we come back from the break, we'll be talking about our experience at the Under Armour game. I know you were a kid in the candy store. I enjoyed my experience. Got to talk to a couple of guys I've been following for a couple of years. Yeah. But we'll see you in a few minutes.
Definitely.
Oh, he ain't gonna move.
Chop, 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 chop. Chop, 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 chop. Jump. Let's go. Let's go. Run.
You doing good? Get that, go.
I tell you what.
That's family over there. That's mama.
That was a clean run. So the new leader with the top.
We're back. Once again, I'm Quinn Lowe, and this is my host.
Antoine Jackson here.
Now it's time to get into these young boys. We had the opportunity to take in the Under Armour game a couple of days ago. What are your thoughts on the future stars of college football?
Some of these guys have minds of a grown man. I had the privilege of interviewing some of these individuals, and it kind of surprised me how they were focused and tuned in on what was going on as far as what they bring to the table. So a lot of them seem like they're a little bit more mature, physically and mentally.
I think that's the one thing that a lot of these guys, the 2014s, the 2015s, and 2016s, are benefiting from the explosion, the recruiting, being recruited since pee-wees, preps, and having been exposed to these camps. I think that's the one thing that has kind of helped the most. These camps like the opening out in Oregon, the Under Armour camps that they have for the underclassmen, it puts you not only on the field, with some of the best. It puts you in the camera, puts you in these environments that gets you prepped as a 9th grader, as a 10th grader, as an 11th grader. So when you come into an environment as your senior year, when you're dealing with the recruitment process, you're already used to it. Right. You know how to handle it. You know how to deal with some of these coaches that can't take no for an answer. Your parents have been prepped with it, so to speak. Your circle has been prepped with it, because nowadays these college coaches really have to start recruiting 8th and 9th graders. Because if you're the type of coach that I'm gonna wait till they get to their junior year, it's too late. You're behind the 8 ball. A lot of these guys have committed, or either if they haven't already committed, they have their eyes set on programs. And even going into this game, normally we see a lot more guys. I mean, there still were a lot of guys that haven't committed, but you tend to see a lot more guys announced at this game. I think it might have been 7 guys this year, but the bulk of these guys has already decided on their schools. We had 2 guys in particular that stood out to me was Jeff Jones, the running back from Minnesota. He committed to the Golden Gophers, but going into the game, he really didn't have too many offers, but he had a great game. I noticed this from the jump. Once he started getting the ball, yes, we heard the Dalvin Cooks, yes, we heard some of the Leonard Fournettes, those names, but Jeff Jones stood out. We also have another quarterback, Sean White from Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, right.
Committed to Auburn. Right there, I know he was watching the Florida State-Auburn game intently, trying to figure out where he fits in. I think Gus Malzahn will have a great opportunity. But Sean White stepped up. He really didn't have too many offers. And I think this is an opportunity now for some of these guys to solidify better offers and close that gap. I mean, we saw some of the announcements. What announcement stood out the most for you this time?
I think maybe possibly with Speedy going to Texas A&M. That was an interesting move. I know LSU had to be on that guy very hard.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Everywhere I saw had him going. I think a lot of the top recruiting sites had LSU and Alabama kind of cleaning up the house, and they really didn't.
No. And I think with Speedy, I heard he was looking at Florida at one point for the type of offense, and with him going to Texas A&M, I could see why he probably was. I heard he was a Gator fan growing up.
Yeah.
You got to think about it. If he's in the 12th grade now, about 4 years ago, that's when Florida was pretty relevant.
Right.
So we know when you have a program that's been relevant, when these kids are in the 8th grade, 9th grade, they remember
that's where the fandom starts. Because I can remember me being a fan, even though I wasn't a top flight athlete. That's why I started watching college football. And it wasn't even to the exposure level where it is now, where you can watch all these programs on all these schools on ESPN, Fox Sports, some of the local stations where you see every school. Whereas us growing up, you saw the local teams and maybe 1 or 2 of the national teams, including Notre Dame.
No internet, no covering high school sports.
Whereas now I can turn on any given Saturday. I can watch some of the MAC schools on ESPNU, ESPN3. So there's a lot more room for exposure. So the fandom and the recognition of developing, I'm a fan of this program, even if I'm not living in that state, is a lot more prevalent. And if Florida could have somehow stayed relevant and pulled him, that would have been a good take. But Texas A&M, even with losing Johnny Manziel potentially to the draft, because we still don't know, he still hasn't made his decision yet.
Johnny.
But if he does leave, they're still in a great position because they have a guy that has some top-notch speed. The one person that I Fournette, #1 player in the country, arguably, depending on what site you look at, had LSU reeling. They lost out on Gerald Willis, who is Landon Collins' brother. We saw the mom act up again.
There she go.
I pray to God she doesn't have any more sons that play football, because if she does, they have to go to LSU, because I do not want to see her in the 2018, the 2019 Under Armour game looking like she did the past couple of years.
This is what she can do. If she has a problem with where her sons are going, after her son Landon goes to the NFL and the other one, Mr. Willis, goes to the NFL, they can give her money so she can go to LSU.
Right.
If she want to go that bad.
Because it seems like every year, Landon picked Alabama, and I remember there were stories and innuendos about, Saban kind of got in the ear of the girlfriend. That's why he ended up there. Florida, I don't know how he ended up picking Florida, but I think what I really think is going on in this situation, them young men realize, I got to get away from my mama. My mama's crazy. I love my mama, but it's something going on that she's trying to hold on to a little bit too tight. And the first opportunity they get, they out.
Well, it seems like Landon and his brother they've pretty much been. I won't say they've been doing what they want to, but she had to know, have an idea her boys what. Moms know their kids the best. Moms know sons greatly, so she had to have an idea that they were gonna do that. So
and part of this, I think, is that quest for celebrity. You see so many people get reality shows, get notoriety, attention for doing nothing. So this was opportunity. She saw how much attention she got with Landon. I think Landon was more the serious situation. That was more serious. Whereas this one, she played up for the camera.
Yeah.
So, because I almost didn't recognize, I'm like, who? Because I happened to, because that announcement came at halftime.
I recognized.
So when I was in the press box cafeteria watching, I'm like, who is this young lady? Because she's once again, she looks younger than she really is.
She is pretty.
Yeah. So, and when I saw Landon Collins' mom, I knew what it was.
You know what it was.
And she played the role, the disgruntled mother, but I really don't think she was as disgruntled this year as she was.
She shouldn't be too upset. She has 2 sons, 2 4- or 5-star athletes who went to top Division I programs in the country. That's the bigger picture. She has to realize my sons just had a scholarship to go play football.
Right.
Not because they didn't go to LSU. Because if they weren't good, LSU wouldn't be beating down your door for your sons anyway.
Right.
So you have to take that into consideration. Yeah, you have athletes in the house, but they still getting a scholarship to go somewhere. Some kids are still fighting to get a scholarship somewhere. Some kids
this late in the game.
Very late in the game. They want a scholarship extremely bad. So, she has to maybe consider that, hey, my kids are getting a scholarship, they're going to school.
And I don't have to worry about paying for it.
Yeah, they're not doing anything violent. They're not doing anything untraditional, anything that's bad, anything like that.
Especially coming out of New Orleans where they're from.
New Orleans.
She should be glad that her sons are getting away from that environment, getting out that situation where it's close for them to still be pulled back in. Now, I do remember that you did get an interview. One of your many interviews was with Adoree Jackson, the defensive back from California.
Yeah.
What was he talking about in the interview?
We got Mr. Jackson O'Rourke coming from California. He had a nice outing. He had an interception today, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so did you enjoy yourself here in Florida? Did you like the festivities here?
I liked everything, competing with some of the best and top-notch players in the country.
You know where you might go to college at yet, or are you still thinking about it?
I'm still thinking. I'm deciding. I'm releasing my top 6 tonight on Twitter.
Okay, gonna release his top 6 tonight. So did you like the competition? Did you see a lot of talent out here?
I seen a lot of talent. I like competing with some of those guys. That's great. They're gonna get the best out of me, and I'm gonna get the best out of them.
So when you go to college, you just gonna be a corner? You gonna be a specialist, or what you gonna do when you go out there?
I'm trying to play, receiver, but if that don't work out, then I'm gonna just play corner and be a specialist.
Okay, well, we're looking forward to seeing you. Adoree Jackson here coming from California, coming here enjoying himself in Florida. We look forward to seeing you on Saturdays and Sundays, all right?
All right, yes, sir.
All right.
It looks like we came to another episode. Always fun. And truthfully, I think this is it. No more college football. Well, we might still have a recruiting signing day conversation. We got to talk about that.
Football doesn't die, baby.
But other than that,
it's
time to get back into basketball. Quick update: USF men's basketball is kinda in a titsy right now. They've lost 4 out of the 5 games. They're now sitting at 9-6. They lost the last game to the University of Houston. Not having Anthony Collins on the roster, who's dealing with some knee tendonitis, is hurting a lot. So if Coach Chief and the rest of the roster can get him back, I think everywhere else they have some depth, but at point guard. Right. Because I look at Corey Allen, he's more of a scoring guard, 2 guard. He's not that true point. And having Anthony Collins there that can bring some stability would get that program right.
Yeah, they need him because they're about to get ready for some. They've already started some conference.
Yeah, they started conference play. They
have been starting pretty good, and this team they want to get to the NCAA. They want to get into the tournament time, playing time, but
they have 2 more tough games coming up. Saturday, the 18th, they play Cincinnati. Cincinnati is coming off of an upset victory over Memphis, so that's going to be a tough game for them. Then they also play on the 22nd. They play Louisville at the Sun Dome. Coach Pitino, any opportunity that you can face some of the top teams, the defending national champion in men's basketball, that's going to be a great test.
Cincinnati just beat Memphis, which is almost considered an upset because Memphis was playing pretty tough that first half, and Cincinnati made the adjustments. But Cincinnati is more of a basketball school.
And that's what makes this conference, even though, like we said earlier, Louisville is going to the ACC, there's still enough teams in this conference to make it competitive. You saw Houston come up and punch them. SMU has some talent with Larry Brown, former Detroit Pistons coach, former Philadelphia 76ers coach. He's out there. So there's some opportunities out here to see some good basketball. So everybody in the Tampa area, if you're not doing anything, be sure to check out the schedule. Be sure to support not only the men, but the women's. The women are 7-7. They have Cincinnati coming up on January 21st. So there's some good basketball coming up. You have also HCC, men's and women. The men play College of Central Florida on January 18th. The women play Santa Fe College on January 15th. And then also we have, I can't forget, University of Tampa. So if you're a basketball fan, there's enough games going around in the area for you. And this isn't even getting into the high school. So if this is the opportunity, if you're a hoop fan, take advantage. And even if you want to make that drive up to Orlando, check out the Magic, who playing a lot better. Got that young rookie, Victor Oladipo from Indiana, that's stepping up. So I guess it's time to say goodbye.
It's time to go, but don't forget, now also we have, with the NBA Cup about to crank up a little bit more. It's already started, but, watch out for the Miami Heat once again. They show how good they really can be. When LeBron didn't play, they still end up going to beat the Blazers on the road without a LeBron James. That was a statement to give the NBA a notice, put on notice. The Heat were still here. We're not going anywhere. So it's going to be interesting things to watch. And hopefully Kobe can come back sometime soon. But that's for another day, But,
right.
It was fun to speaking with you all. Hope to see you all again next week. Take care, be safe, and, just enjoy your life. Peace.
Have a good week.
Thank you.